Look, most businesses today are totally stuck. And they're stuck not because they lack resources, but because they are trapped constantly treating symptoms. We're all out here fixing the behavior on the surface without ever actually understanding the system that produced it in the first place. I mean, think about it. We have AI giving us instant answers right at our fingertips. Data is literally everywhere, just flowing endlessly across our screens. And yet, despite having all of this incredible information, the underlying structure, that hidden software running the organization, well, it remains completely unexamined. So let's just name the problem directly right out of the gate in this explainer. The problem is not a lack of information. It's a lack of a model. Today, we're going to move beyond those surface-level symptoms and finally decode that hidden system.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think of your organization exactly like the laptop sitting on your desk right now. Rachel Mariotti brilliantly points out that we operate with two minds. First, you've got the conscious mind, the screen, right? This is what's visible, present, and well-lit. In business, this is your polished dashboards, your AI-generated summaries, your glowing PR, and your big customer promises. But then we have the unconscious mind. This is the operating system, categorically running behind the curtain. It's the hidden processes, the deeply unexamined assumptions, the root core code that's controlling almost everything behind the scenes. It's the real power behind the throne. The great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung captured this dynamic perfectly. He famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Jung believed that we all have a shadow deep within our unconscious, basically repressed, unexamined traits that we absolutely refuse to confront. And the thing is, when we ignore these hidden truths, they inevitably sabotage us. And instead of taking responsibility for the underlying mechanics of our own failures, what do? We throw our hands up and just blame fate or the market or bad luck. Part 1. The Unconscious Enterprise, Confronting the Corporate Shadow.
Now, whether you're operating right here in the dynamic Kenyan business context or out in the broader global market, this diagnostic iceberg perfectly illustrates what's going on. Up above the waterline, you've got the conscious business. On the surface, it's all about delighting customers, having great mission statements, and polished PR. But look below the waterline. Organizations have this unexamined shadow that they just refuse to confront. Down in the dark, that's where you find the shoddy products, the systems that rarely work right, and these massive unexamined assumptions. The true root cause of a company's dysfunction isn't the poor customer service you see at the top. It's the fundamental inability to dig down below that waterline and confront the broken systems operating in the deep. So, the big question, how do we actually fix what's below the waterline? Well, we need a fundamental gear change. We have to move from single-loop learning, which is honestly just treating a symptom, to double-loop learning. This is literally the practice of learning how to learn. Instead of just patching a leaky pipe over and over again, you step back and ask, what is the structure of the plumbing system that's causing this pressure to build up in the first place? Using Donella Meadows' legendary systems thinking approach, you map out the inputs, the environment, the outputs, and the feedback loops. You diagnose the structure rather than just medicating the symptom. Think about it this way. For centuries, alchemists dreamed of turning lead into gold. And contrary to popular belief, the serious ones weren't trying to do this with magic. They were trying to unlock the hidden potential within metals by deeply understanding the structure of matter. They realized that to change the material, you have to understand the abstraction of how the material is built. Today's businesses need to ask the alchemist's true question. When you look at your current, raw, unrefined state, your lead, and your desired state, your gold, you must build an abstraction. You've got to ask, what is the hidden structure connecting them? Moving on to part 2, the Cambridge abstraction, 800 years of structural thinking. Founded over 800 years ago in 1209, the University of Cambridge produced absolute giants like Newton, Darwin, and Keynes, specifically because it trained them to map deep structures. And there is honestly no better example of this than Alan Turing. As the scholar Stephen Petro points out, Turing conceived a universal mathematical model of computation. The astonishing act of compression here is that he didn't just try to fix or describe one single, isolated calculating machine. No, he abstracted the very idea of computation itself. He mapped the entire system. And that quality of thinking, building a universal model rather than just slapping a Band-Aid on a single machine, that is exactly what's available to any business willing to train it. Which brings us to the ultimate challenge for you and your organization, the Cambridge question. Most people just operate at the level of anecdotes, right? Isolated instances, passive data taking. But a structurally trained mind asks something different. What is the minimal structure underneath all this complexity? What's the model here? What is the absolute smallest set of roles that explains the widest range of phenomena you're experiencing in your business? We have to stop relying on isolated examples and demand to see the universal model running the organization.
So how do we actually operationalize this rigorous thinking in your boardroom tomorrow morning? Here's the Cambridge model for business in 3 distinct steps. First, reframe the business question entirely. Stop asking, how do we fix this behavior? And start asking, what system is producing this outcome? Second, use laser precision to identify the specific stuck step. And third, and definitely most importantly, build a proactive mind. You have to shift away from passive note-taking and reactive firefighting. You need a team that actively derives, tests, and rebuilds systems from the inside out. And this brings us to a really core philosophy here. Your goal is not to be right on the first pass. It is to build a mind that knows how to solve problems. Let that sink in. When you finally dive below the iceberg, your first model of the system, it's probably going to be flawed. Actually, scratch that. It will definitely be flawed at first, and that is perfectly okay. The objective isn't instant perfection. The objective is to cultivate an active, rigorous, problem-solving mindset that deeply understands system dynamics proactively. You want a team that maps out the structure of a crisis long before external help even arrives.
As we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a timeless provocation from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Are your company's blind spots, its recurring crises, its constant frustrating bottlenecks, are they truly just fate? Is it just a bad economy? Is it just terrible luck? Or is it simply the natural, entirely predictable result of an unexamined operating system running in the dark? Here is the absolute bottom line. If your organization keeps solving the exact same problems quarter after quarter, year after year, it's because the system producing them has never been examined. You are treating the symptoms, not the structure. If you're finally ready to stop managing the surface and start restructuring your business reality, well, that is the conversation worth having. Visit www.acatalyst.co.ke to begin mapping your hidden systems today.